Good morning. This is Amy with Sensorium Hypnosis with the podcast Healer Within on Spotify. My name is Amy Marone, and I'm a hypnotist here. And I have guest Erica, former client, who is going to share a little bit more about her experiences in hypnosis. Good morning to you, Erica.
Good morning, Amy.
Thank you for being with me and sharing more with our audience today. Erica, we're just going to start right from the top, and I'm going to ask you if you would be willing to share a little bit more about what inspired you to reach out to me.
Of course, I'm happy to do that. So the short answer to how I came to hypnosis is a breakup of a 12-year-long relationship. The answer that's a little bit longer with some context is 12 years intertwined with a person who exhibited highly toxic traits during the course of the relationship. Those traits were covert and subtle in nature, which is
Mm-hmm.
why it took me 12 years to fully
Mm-hmm.
understand what I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the final end of the relationship, as I was beginning to connect dots, started to place boundaries, we were no longer living together, and I was just trying to process the relationship. I was on the phone with this person one day. This was last year, and I began asking a lot of questions. And I was at that point where, through connecting those dots and really trying to put puzzle pieces together, I had more questions than answers. So, questions that I probably should have asked during the course of the relationship um, now were coming up. And, at the time, I thought I needed answers to these questions so that I could fully process and understand what I was dealing with. I thought that at the time. I realize now those answers are not needed. But at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I really felt that this is what I needed in order
Mm-hmm.
to satisfy the confusion that I was
Mm-hmm.
largely feeling throughout the
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So on this particular day on the phone with this person, rather than them helping me understand and really validating my experience, they flipped a switch
Mm-hmm.
and disclosed that they'd been cheating on me the entire duration of the relationship. And
Oh.
it was, when I say flip a switch, it was like 1 minute prior to that, they were begging to be back in the relationship, convincing me that we could heal together. Let's just do this together. Let's be together. And
Mm-hmm.
then, not getting traction on that, they flipped a switch and revealed this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And to really twist the knife in this, claim that I deserve that.
Oh.
So, toxic person throughout the relationship, the toxicity escalates, at the very end when they're not
Mm-hmm.
able to get traction or control that anymore. And
Yes.
just the wheels fall completely off. And the
Mm-hmm.
intention there, and I didn't realize it at the time, but now I understand.
Mm-hmm.
There was true intention behind that, and that was to inflict maximum damage.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a journey, right? And
Yes.
how eye-opening for you, right? This sounds like that was the moment in time you decided I need help,
Hmm.
letting go of this.
Hmm.
So
It
so
had
can
it had to
uh,
be. That moment had to be.
yeah, looking back, right?
Yes.
And Erica, can you share with our listeners a little bit more about the process you went through trying to find the help that you think would be um, most beneficial in transitioning from this relationship to letting go and being single?
Yeah. So there I was in this emotional state like I'd never experienced before. At that point, I was immediately after and then beyond. I'm
Mhm.
grieving, deeply
Mhm.
saddened, I'm confused, shocked, gutted, really, really gutted.
Mm.
for the first time in my life, felt like I was actually broken. And I've been through
Mm,
breakups before, it happens, you're sad, you move on. But when a toxic or narcissistic person tries to take you out, that's a different kind of ending to a relationship.
mm,
Intentional, it's a direct strike, to your most vulnerable parts of you. And they
mhm,
and it's so effective. It's so highly effective. It's textbook, it's pretty unoriginal, but it's also really effective.
mhm,
So cognitively, I'm sitting there and I'm ruminating pretty much 24/7, replaying this scenario, going back over a 12-year period, replaying all of those scenarios and trying to put puzzle pieces together. I'm trying to make sense of what happened and not being very successful at it. I'm
mhm,
physically completely drained.
mhm.
Um, I describe it as an energy transfusion, except no energy was put back to me. It was
Gosh.
I was completely zapped.
Yeah.
Um, I had enough reserves to get myself to work, but beyond
Mhm,
that, my nights and weekends were spent on the couch in a
mm,
depressive, shell-shocked state. I mean, that's probably the
mm,
best way that I can put it. So that state of emotion and cognition and the physical, unable to get motivated and do things is really the sort of state that I was in that propelled me to seek something beyond
mhm, mhm,
conventional therapy, which I've been involved with for decades.
mhm,
I knew that I needed to do something different. It needed to be something just as impactful and effective as how I was taken out, basically.
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
needed to meet my healing with as much force and impact as I was met with this trauma
mm,
that was inflicted on me. That was really kind of the connection I was trying to make here.
mhm, mhm. Now, Erica, this is going back a little bit of time, but do you remember, the kind of things you might have typed into the search engine to look for something other than talk therapy?
I typed in hypnosis.
You did. Okay.
I did, and,
Uh-huh.
I can't remember exactly why I was so succinct with that search. It could
Hmm.
have been, I'm part of, uh, multiple different support groups and,
Hmm.
connecting with people who have shared experiences as myself, and there's a lot of talk in that realm about non-traditional, um, therapies
Hmm.
and treatments for folks who have been through this kind of trauma or have experienced childhood trauma, that could lead to something like this in adulthood.
Hmm.
So in those realms, there's talk of somatic therapy, and just different variations. And so it
Hmm.
could be sort of stemming from, those discussions. But
Sure.
I do remember typing in hypnosis and it was just pretty succinct.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing how the universe brings you
Yes.
just what you need in
Yes.
divine timing. Was there a sense for you in ending this relationship that it was in any way connected to your childhood?
Yes.
Okay.
I've long known that my adult relationships reflected relationships of my childhood.
Mm,
And this is what I've spent so many years in talk therapy for. This is kind of sad. I've spent so many years in talk therapy, but nearly all of my sessions are having to do with a partner. So, a
mm,
partner at the time, right? And
mm,
their behaviors and what they're doing to inflict harm on me and all of the things that I'm dealing with in relation to this partner.
mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting. And so,
And
mhm,
in
go ahead.
going forward with hypnosis, I knew that I wanted to focus on me and I needed to get to a place where I could shift away from focusing on these toxic people and get to me. So I have
Ah,
made those parallels. I have made those parallels. I wouldn't say that I've necessarily, before hypnosis, had a breakthrough regarding those parallels.
yeah, yeah. Well, interesting that you're able to look back and analyze that, because I'd love for you to share your experience in hypnosis and how things were different. The approach was different than talk therapy. So any light you can shed on that for listeners would be great.
Yes. So it is different, but I want to talk a little bit about what happens prior to the actual hypnosis
Yeah.
session. And
Yeah.
that is talking, but
Mm-hmm.
it's different talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for the 2 or 3 sessions leading up to the actual hypnosis session,
Mm-hmm.
we talked for 2 hours, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
more than 2 hours.
Yep.
And it part of it, and I think this is one of the most important pieces, is the validation of my experience just through
Mm-hmm.
that talking piece. And
Yeah.
it's not like, okay, sit down and Amy's just going to tell you how great you are and you didn't deserve all this and everything's going to be great, right? That's not what I mean in terms of validation. It's not lip service. It's listening to my experience, getting yourself as a healer in place and oriented around my experience, and then
Mm-hmm.
being able to help me recognize my capabilities in this process of healing, recognize gifts,
Mm-hmm.
help me sort out the things that need to be sorted out or visited or
Mm-hmm.
revisited prior
Mm-hmm.
to that hypnosis session. So that
Yeah.
is visiting your childhood trauma. This is something that you did, Amy, during our sessions that really blew me away. That's never happened before in talk therapy. And mind you, I believe in talk therapy, and I believe
Mm-hmm.
there's a time and place for talk therapy. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
negating the benefits of talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened in our sessions is you did not allow me, okay, to just focus on the present and just focus on this one toxic person in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You gave me prompts to go back in time to my childhood and to draw parallels and draw conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Where I just wanted to sit here and say, "Oh, I can't believe they did that. Can you believe that? Like, how can a person act like that? This is outrageous."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is, but what are the things that have what are the other things that have gone on in my life
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that have led here?
Yeah.
Um, and so I found that to be very helpful because I believe that's where people can really get stuck too.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just focus on one event or one person, and you can do
Sure.
that for the rest of your life.
Sure. Absolutely. So we're talking root cause, right? What
Yes.
is it about this type of person that makes them attractive, right? There's a certain familiarity,
Hmm.
right? Which signals to us that, hey, inner child has some work, right? There's some things that need to be addressed with the inner child. And how do we get those needs met in a healthier way, right? So we begin to also, Erica, look through a spiritual lens also to see Erica as a spiritual being. Can you speak to any of that experience? I know it's going back a little bit of a ways, but when you begin to see yourself through a more spiritual lens, do you remember having any aha moments?
One of the aha moments I had was, wow, I'm so strong. First of all, I've endured childhood trauma. Okay, I've lived through that. I've experienced the reverberation of childhood trauma through
Mm-hmm.
these relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten myself up and into a space where now I can heal. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's the realization, first of all, that I'm strong. I'm strong enough to do this. And I
Mhm.
do have the ability to heal myself. And the way that
Mhm.
I can do that is by receiving guidance from healers like yourself, Amy, and
Mhm.
connecting with others who have shared experiences. And those that is what is giving me the support and tools to ultimately heal myself. And I'm responsible for my own care and for protecting my
Mm.
own soul.
Mhm.
And this is something I didn't know 9 months ago, okay?
Mhm.
I thought it was other people's job. Well, why didn't you protect
Mm.
my heart? It's just your job to keep me safe. No, it's not. It's no one else's job. It's nice, it's really great to
Mhm.
connect to someone on a soul level like that, and they're actually going to do that. It's not their job. It's my job.
Mhm. Mm.
So this is this was an aha moment for me, and this also gets you out of the blame game and
Ah,
helps you to get unstuck. I have no
yeah.
one to blame here. I have a shared experience with someone, but they're not to blame, and they're not to blame if I don't move forward in my own healing and I don't take
Mhm.
care of myself and my
Mm.
own.
Sure.
So I want to share this quote. This is by an unknown person, but I've seen this meme online, and it
Mhm.
says a healer is not someone you go to for healing. A healer is someone that triggers within in you your own ability to heal yourself.
Yeah.
And that is truly how I felt. And it was felt from the moment I had my first session with you. I
Mm.
felt that. And I knew, all right, it's game on.
Mhm.
It's Amy's here to help me and guide me, but this is on me.
Mhm. Mhm. Right? It's that self-empowerment piece, right? Instead of me or any practitioner help, handing you a prescriptive formula, that this is, you know, helping Erica ignite her own inner healer and piece together a life formula that resonates with her soul, or the most authentic version of herself, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so when we think about aha moments, when we're dealing with unhealthy relationship patterns, can you share some aha moments specific to that?
This is a huge realization for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when someone brings to you information or they display behavior,
Mm-hmm.
that's just information.
Mm-hmm.
Information, it, it, it's neutral. So
Mm-hmm.
information doesn't make us feel good or bad about ourselves. It's experiences in relation to the information we're receiving that makes us feel some kind of way. And
Mm-hmm.
so this realization for me has gone a long way in helping to depersonalize what happened and to understand that the information that that person was sharing with me at the time has to do with their choices and their value system in
Mm-hmm.
relation to their own experiences.
Mm.
So, what I do with that information, what I did with that information 9 months ago versus what I do with it today, they're
Mm-hmm.
two completely and totally different things because I remove myself from that as a point of that triggered my deep abandonment wounds. It triggered my low self esteem. It caused great confusion in me in terms of like, who really am I? This person who validated me for so many years now is telling me they're not the person I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
That was 9 months ago. Flash forward today, it's just And my experience is different now. What it doesn't
Mhm.
mean is I'm not a good person. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I deserved it. It doesn't mean that I'm any less. I'm not less than.
Mhm.
So that probably is like the biggest aha moment for me and takeaway in this process. And it started with the hypnosis session and those talk sessions, but the effects and the impact of that has lasted over
Mhm.
time. I carry that with me, and I've picked up other things along the way and other
Mhm.
realizations and insight along the way. So it sort of propelled me into this different, I mean, realm, I guess, this
Mhm.
different way of thinking, a different way of being, because I have had the opportunity to spur that on within myself, and that's not something that I was ever able to achieve before. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if I ever really had a quote breakthrough, for whatever that means for others, um, until I experienced hypnosis and I was able to actually feel energy moving through my body. I was able to get myself in a deep meditative state under
Mhm.
guidance. And with with guidance, I was able to make that happen for myself in that
Mhm.
moment. And so empowering. It's so empowering. It's not someone feeding you information. It's not someone telling you what to do. It's not someone asking endless questions and you never getting anywhere because
Mhm.
questions aren't being asked. So it's
Mhm.
impossible to make connections.
Mhm.
Um, and it's interesting too. I think this is so interesting that something so soul connected and so spiritual can
Mhm.
actually lead you to really practical evidence.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, when I sit here and say it's information, like I really mean that. And
Mhm.
this is how I treat information on my day-to-day basis. You see a lot of
Mhm.
emotions in the workplace, right? And,
Mhm.
it used to be I would get excited and riled up when other people were like upset in the workplace. Now it's like, okay, this person's bringing me information. Information's neutral. So what do I do with this now based on my current experience?
Mhm.
But from
Mhm.
that very practical, like matter of fact way of
Mhm.
viewing the world, it was born out of a spiritual process. I and I just made that connection now, but I think that is really fascinating.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, and Erica, I wonder if you might be able to share a little bit more about how this has impacted relationships with other people in your inner circle. Any improvements in relationships with, family members or friends as a result of the relationship we did in hypnosis.
Yeah. You know, this is um this is interesting because where I couldn't see the toxicity before, I see it everywhere now.
Mm, okay, yeah.
Okay. Not everywhere, but
Sure.
I'm more aware now of what appears to be going on with people, in terms of maybe toxic behaviors or manipulation and
Mm-hmm.
gaslighting, triangulation, sort of all those like buzzwords. But I know there's sort of these general labels to these kind of
Mm-hmm.
behaviors now, and I can see it much more easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it is astonishing how many people sort of demonstrate this kind of behavior. But the flip side of that is because I'm more aware of that,
Mm-hmm.
I can protect my heart and my soul more easily now because I can remove myself from those situations and instead gravitate towards like-minded people and spaces that are safer for me and
Mm.
spaces people that will nurture my soul. So
Oh,
it's not just about like labeling people or pinpointing people and, oh, that person's toxic, you know. It's not so much about that. It's about where now am I going to reallocate my energy?
mm-hmm,
Okay. Whereas before I would have stayed with that toxic person, or I would have tried to befriend that toxic person and change them, you know, and make them
mm-hmm.
see like you know,
Yeah,
things can be different. No, and again, it's not my job. Right. So
sure.
shifting myself, shifting my energy away from
Oh,
those things and into spaces that are going to fill me up,
yeah.
give me joy, make
Mm-hmm.
me happy, and
Yeah.
and then lead to other things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this journey has been uncertainty, and I think that's why a lot of people get stuck too, and they don't want
Mm-hmm.
to change or end things because you don't know what is beyond what you are familiar with. But the
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty part of it can also be very exciting. And it's what
Uh-huh.
is right around the corner that you don't even see and you don't even know that could bring you the
Mm-hmm.
most joy.
Absolutely. I mean, Erica, would it be safe to say that this process is more about working on the relationship you have with yourself?
Yes. It's it's all about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I'm just at the tip of the iceberg too, I feel like in my
Uh-huh.
healing,
Yeah.
but working on myself, I'm now able to do that now because I'm not focusing on another person or a
Oh.
situation. I have really pulled myself out of using that as a crutch in a way to
Mm-hmm.
not really delve into myself. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got to go deep here. You have to go deep. And there again is another reason for hesitancy, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
scary. It's
Sure.
scary to go into the deep, crevasses of your mind
Mm-hmm.
and your experiences and know that that's going to incite pain and it's going to be hard and you don't know where you're going to end up after that.
Mm-hmm.
That can be very scary, but it's almost like once you start going down that rabbit hole, you can't stop. And
Mm-hmm.
there is evidence along the way. There is evidence along the way, albeit painful. There's evidence along the way that you are doing the right thing and you're on the right path when you start going inward instead of focusing outward.
Oh, beautifully, beautifully stated. Well, and Erica, that gets into my next question for you, and that's how effective is this approach of healing in helping manifest abundance for you in other areas of your life?
I feel like this is really cliche, but when they say one door closes, another opens,
Yeah.
it's true. And I really think what that is getting at is it's speaking to clearing the path of the past, clearing the path of what doesn't serve you.
Mm,
Because what happens when you clear the path? Then you're making space, you're making room for new things to come
mm,
in.
mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, one of the very first things that happened within a few weeks of starting my journey with you is I got promoted at work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was propelled further into my executive leadership role. And I don't think this was by accident. My first session with you, the energy began to shift. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so about energy. I am
Mm-hmm.
so about it. I believe it is a true driver of one's success. It can be a driver of when you're not having success. It is felt within the body. And once you get in tune with your own energy and with other people's energies, that is hard to compete with. And
Mm-hmm.
it's undeniable. So the energy began to shift. I could feel it, and I was bringing that to work with me.
Mhm.
It wasn't quite to the point of bringing it into my personal life.
Mhm.
I was still, really early on into this healing journey, but work is where I really excel,
Mhm.
and that helped boost my energy and get me, into this different sort of energy mode at work. So
Mhm.
getting the promotion, that's great. That's not a be all end all, and I really work hard not to identify myself just with my
Mhm.
job. But to me, that was a big accomplishment and part of that
Mhm.
energy shift. So beyond that, though, what has happened is I mentioned that I'm part of multiple groups
Mhm.
for folks who have experienced similar shared experiences as I have with toxic relationships, and that has been really eye opening to know that other people have these shared experiences, but then they're so varied too. So you're
Mhm.
you're getting on a deeper level with folks who
Mhm.
where the foundation is similar, but then there's so many different variations of our experiences that you're really able to go into conversations on a
Mhm.
deeper
Oh,
level, on a
yes.
soul level. And I know when I say
Mm.
soul level, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
this is beyond surface level. It's beyond fake relationships. It's beyond relationships of convenience. These
Mhm.
folks who are really aligned because
Mhm.
of shared experiences, and not
Mm.
only shared experiences, but the growth mindset and the
Oh,
lifetime commitment to personal growth
yeah.
that just propels you beyond it. It transcends anything
Mhm.
that is toxic. It's
Mm.
kind of like once you get on this path, you just can't be messed with anymore.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Oh,
it's true.
isn't
It's true.
isn't that true? Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, right? You've addressed and are actively addressing that relationship piece with yourself.
Yes.
You're recognizing, you're describing a phenomenon many of my clients in their healing journeys describe of drawing in other high frequency souls, right? And it's energetic. They're drawn in by you, you're drawn to them.
Mhm.
The synchronicity of the way in which the universe places specific people in our lives to help us, to propel us forward in our personal goals and our professional goals. Um, it's amazing, and I appreciate so much that you can see this through the spiritual lens, but you're also aware of how this shifts things in the outer world,
Mhm.
right? That are very beneficial to you on every level, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, cognitively, all the pieces. Erica, I love to ask this question to my clients, and we may have touched on this before, maybe toward one of our last sessions, but when you look back at the Erica that existed, 9 months, 12 months, 2, 3 years ago, is it hard sometimes to relate to that version of you from where you're sitting now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What's
And
different? Yeah.
I believe this is why people will often say that healing is lonely.
Mm,
It can feel like an isolated experience because
mhm,
when you start shifting and changing and not recognizing yourself from a year
mhm,
ago, how are
mhm.
others going to recognize you?
Yeah.
You know? So there's not only this evolution of yourself that you're now having to adjust to or get used to or get to know. I mean, really you're getting to know your evolved self.
Mm,
You've got others around you who are taking notice too, or maybe don't understand it, or um, are also looking at themselves and
mhm,
maybe are either inspired or questioning whether or not that should be also a part of their journey. I look back at myself a year ago, 10 years ago, and I often think, um, why didn't I know? Why didn't I have the foresight or understanding? Now I don't do that as much anymore because through my growth and work, I understand that you only know what you know at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And it is
Completely.
only through growth and work that you come to understand and have these realizations. So I don't, punish myself for that
Sure.
anymore. But it is easy to do, to look back and think, wow, I spent a lot of time doing something that really was not good for me. It didn't serve
Hmm.
me. But it's also really
Yeah.
exciting. It's also
Hmm.
really exciting to know that I'm evolving as a person and I'm changing. I really have always been someone who thrives on a growth mindset. I have to have that in
Hmm.
my life.
Hmm.
So that's the piece that helps me to be more excited than anything, of
Hmm.
the uncertainty and getting to know myself in this different light.
Mm, beautiful. Erica, if you could offer some advice or some wisdom to, let's just say, other women who have been caught up in a long-term relationship with someone who is unhealthy to the point where it's really interrupting their physical health, their mental health, the flow of life is making them question their value or their worth. What would you want them to know about hypnosis, the healing process, any wisdom that you could share?
Mhm. First of all, I would say this: you already know. So when we're sitting there questioning ourselves year after year, what is this? I'm confused. Will this person change? What am I doing wrong? You
Mm,
already you already know a change needs to happen.
mm,
So help yourself understand that first, that
mm-hmm.
intuitively you
Yeah.
understand that this isn't right. And
Mm-hmm.
I listened to my intuition for so long. I waited for someone to change. I blamed myself, all of the things. I accepted the bare minimum. Intuitively, I knew that was not the right thing to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a long time sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just takes time. I think for the most part, people make concerted efforts to change when there's something really big at stake, when there's
Mm,
a lot to lose, or there's such immense suffering that they're willing to try anything. So it's like, the house is on fire. Oh my gosh, okay, I better do something now.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really where I was when I embarked on my hypnosis journey. But maybe the house isn't on fire. Maybe it's just a long, ongoing smolder. And sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
can see the smoke, you can smell the smoke, you can see small flickers here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing's really up in flames yet, right?
Sure.
But it will be. If you're in
Mm,
that position, you already intuitively know what's going to happen. And by not taking the reins at this point, the
yeah.
fire's going to hold, the belongings will be destroyed, the house is going to burn down.
Mm-hmm.
You already know. And by letting it smolder, you're sitting back, you're basically guaranteeing your own suffering. And the reason why is because of fear and uncertainty and the
Mm-hmm.
familiarity. And you don't have
Oh,
to do. I mean, really, I would say don't wait for the flames to come up, because that's when you're
Mhm.
really in desperation mode. And then you're scrambling and maybe not making the best decisions for yourself.
Great insight. Well, and also too, Erica, the phrase impending doom,
Yeah.
right? And just the body being and the mind being in a consistent state of fight or flight, boy, that can take a person's immune system down
Yeah.
eventually. And you're right, we never ever make good decisions, good, grounded, well thought out decisions when we're in crisis, right? So better to give yourself some time to work with a practitioner to process everything you're going through, because also, as you and I both know, um, when the healing work isn't done on a deep level, the risk of being tempted to go back, it's huge. Would you
That's
agree?
exactly that's exactly right. And that is a huge risk factor in untangling yourself from a toxic relationship. Um, it's sort of part of the textbook sequencing of how toxic relationships go. Hoovering,
Mm-hmm.
they call it. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
them trying to get you back or being pulled back in because of the familiarity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a huge risk factor, and one that I think I would have been vulnerable to had I um, continued just with my talk therapy, because I
Mm-hmm.
was in talk therapy and continued to be engaged in talk therapy even during my hypnosis
Mm-hmm.
sessions. And I think I would have been more susceptible to, going back into that situation had I
Mm-hmm.
not had something that really could succinctly get at the root cause
Mm-hmm.
of why I was engaging in that, and really, really have an impact that was going to kind of stop me, in my tracks a little bit, and to give me pause and something to really chew on and think about, rather
Mm-hmm.
than, the traditional method and kind of doing the same thing.
Sure, sure. Erica, do you remember how long or how many sessions it took before you really felt some shifts taking place? Because you were only with me really, I think, 4
Yes.
consecutive
Yeah.
weekly sessions. Do you remember how long it took for you to start connecting the dots and starting to feel some shifts in the way that you think or feel or even behave?
It didn't take long. I started to feel a shift from my first session,
Mm-hmm.
and I go back to the feeling of being validated in that first session.
Mm-hmm.
When you've come from a place where you weren't validated, where, your feelings, your needs, were not taken seriously, or they were, kind of responded to in a way that you don't know what you're talking about, where being made to feel like you don't know what your own needs are, and
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing, and just constantly doubting yourself, to meet with you in that first session and have you validate that experience and understand, yeah, that's not right. That wasn't right
Mm-hmm.
for you. That in and of itself was huge in terms of being able to shift my perspective. Um, by the time we got to our third session, which was mostly talk and a little bit of hypnosis, sort of dipping the toes in the water, I really could start to feel like I was getting some traction now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have to say this: you never sent me home really with homework.
Mm-hmm.
What I was getting out of the sessions was what I was getting out of them in real time during the time
Mm-hmm.
that we were together. So it's not as if I had to go home and write in a journal or,
Yeah.
fill out a worksheet or look at a video. You know, certainly you have resources for us, but um, the work was done with you,
Hmm.
and impact lasts well beyond each session.
Hmm.
So session by session, I was sustained by the building of energy
Hmm.
throughout,
Hmm.
and then it culminated, into the hypnosis session, which was incredible. It was
Mm.
incredible and life changing, to the point
Mm.
where, right after that, I'm texting my sisters. I'm like, I can't even believe this happened. This is incredible.
Oh, oh, Erica. Well, what an amazing journey. And to be able to talk to you this many months later and to have your a fuller perspective, right? And to have you experience life after hypnosis
Hmm.
and to see all the amazing shifts in time and
Yeah.
the building of momentum and attracting healthier, more fulfilling relationships personally and professionally.
Hmm.
And that emotional resiliency piece and the inner peace of being able to sit in the unknown comfortably, to have that inner peace. And would you say a little bit more trust in the universe and the timing of the universe to bring to you just what you need when you need it?
Yes, that's huge because I am a person who wants to get the task, get it done right. Very goal oriented, very task
Mm-hmm.
oriented person.
Uh-huh.
So in this, I've had to really recognize and understand that this is a process that plays out in its own time.
Yeah.
I am the driver of this, but I'm not the controller of
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does.
The trust is there for the process to unfold as
Mm-hmm.
it is going to unfold. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said before, pay attention to the evidence before you that happens along the way in this
Mm.
journey. When you think you're not getting to a point where, oh, I should be healed by now, I should be over this by now, I
Mm-hmm.
should not be thinking about this anymore. What is should? What is that?
Right.
To me, that doesn't even exist. That's a construct, should.
Mm-hmm.
What you should be doing is what you're doing.
Yeah.
That is what you should be doing.
Right.
Whether it's trying to get out of a situation, whether it's you're out and you're on your path to healing, whether it's you're questioning something, that is what you should be
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, there is a trust factor here that exists where it didn't exist before.
Right.
And it does have to
Absolutely.
do with the spiritual universe, which is something that I'm more connected to than ever before. And
Mm-hmm.
which is part of that sort of, okay, what's happened since hypnosis, right? And part of
Mm-hmm.
that is I'm on a spiritual path doing spiritual practices in
Mm-hmm.
spaces and with people that I never knew even existed before.
Yeah.
Just last night,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on a spiritual practice with my son in a space that we never knew even existed before.
Mm.
And this particular practice is something that gives us so much joy and so much connectedness and evidence of what the universe can do.
Mm.
And that's what's born out of uncertainty. If you're
Mm-hmm.
uncertain and you're scared, does that sound scary?
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Right.
It's amazing.
Right. When you have a good relationship with yourself, when you have inner peace, um, when you've done the deeper work, Erica, the wisdom is there. The higher mind is fully engaged and pulling you in a direction that is uplifting and healthy and helps us maintain that balance emotionally, physically, spiritually, all in all ways. Erica, I have really, really appreciated being able to have this conversation with you and to share it with our listeners. You give some incredible perspective about relationships and incredible perspectives about how the process of how to create a healthier relationship with yourself and how that does manifest abundance in due time, over time. A lot of times it has to do with how we respond to the outer world, right?
Mhm.
When the volume of the trauma self is lowered and the higher self is at the helm. And that trust factor, the truth about hypnosis and the multimodality approach that I take is that my clients pull forth the wisdom that they've gleaned from this process on an as needed basis. Right? No journaling necessary, no sweating bullets over trying to remember what we've done in this session. It's just the higher mind pulls it forward naturally and organically.
That's
So,
exactly right, and that
mhm.
has definitely been my experience.
Well, thank you, Erica, again, for being so generous with your insights and with your time. And I know our listeners will get so much from this really engaging conversation we had today. Again, my name is Amy Marone. My podcast is Healer Within. You can find me online at sensoriumhypnosis.com. Erica, again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you so much, Amy. It was great to
Okay.
see you.
Thank you. Bye now.